Well, hello there and welcome to another edition of The Big Q. Today we have the pleasure of hosting the Israeli ambassador to Rwanda, Ambassador Ron Adam, who is going to tell us more of the bilateral ties and cooperation and what it means to have an embassy in the country. Thank you very much, sir, for making time to be with us and welcome to our show.
Good evening, Miriwe.
As we start our conversation, maybe take us through the current relationships that we have between Rwanda and Israel.
So let's say the embassy of Rwanda in Israel was established in 2015, and since then there were visits here from Prime Minister Netanyahu came here, and the Minister of Defense came here with delegation, and also the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So we had visits of high level, top level visits here, and also in Israel. And since then, there were talks about the opening of the embassy, which went on until the Prime Minister Netanyahu decided in November 2018 to open the embassy. So since then, we looked for space, we looked for residents, we had some teams came in between, and the 1st of May, we opened the embassy.
Yes.
And I came 1st of May. So this is the 11th embassy in Africa.
In Africa.
We had before that 10 embassies, and the last one was opened in Ghana in 2012, and this is the 11th embassy.
Yes.
So it's of course it's very important, especially because. I would say the Israeli Foreign Ministry suffers from lack of resources.
Yes.
By the way, we had a strike last week.
Yes.
2 days we closed the embassy because we don't have enough money. But this is an issue which is internal. However, we had lack of resources. That's why I'm saying 11 embassies in Africa is good. Is a good thing.
It is.
And for the meantime, I will cover only Rwanda.
Okay.
Because usually you expect if you have only 11 embassies in 45 countries, you cover more countries. So next year, maybe I will get another country if I wish to do so. In the meantime, I wanted to concentrate
on Rwanda.
There's so much to do here. And we will talk about it. But unique relations, special relationship, I would say sister countries.
Yes.
And that is because of many reasons,
absolutely.
Which we can discuss, of course. But one that comes to mind immediately, of course, is the past, is our history. Both nations came out of the ashes of genocide and Holocaust. 1/3 of our nation, the Jewish nation, was lost in the Second World War, in the Holocaust. And same goes to in the genocide against the Tutsis, when 1/3 of the I would say of the population were affected, either murdered or affected otherwise by the genocide. So we both restarted ourselves, made a restart in 48 and in 94, and since then the Israeli model of how we did it. As a landlocked, because we are surrounded by hostile neighbors,
Yes.
and a small country with not a big population and no natural resources at all. So we need to use the brain. And there is a lot of brain here. And a lot of things which we can share of our good experience, and that's what we do.
Absolutely. Maybe as we continue to grow the nations, both Israel and Rwanda, what would you say are some of the priorities that you plan to look into to ensure that we have stronger diplomatic ties over the years?
Yes. So let's say that the relations didn't start in May 1st, 19. It goes back. Of course, I mentioned the visits, I mentioned the delegations that came, and I would say the relations concentrated, I would say, in the defense sector more than other things. And my challenge is, of course, to open the relations to all the civilian sectors. And the priorities go to, I would say, the first is agriculture. I would say smart agriculture, and water management, which is so important for Rwanda. You have a lot of water in the rain seasons, but you don't have enough water in the drought seasons. And we need to share with you experience on water management
yes.
and how to treat water, how to preserve water. And this goes to water management. Smart agriculture is another issue. And of course, we are looking for bringing applications of smart agriculture to prepare the future farmers of Rwanda in covering the whole value chain, which is the first mile, the last mile, and whatever in between. And the second priority, of course, all our priorities, I would say, but the second sector that I can mention is ICT and innovation. And this country wants to be and should and can be the hub of innovation of Africa. And it goes also to cyber, it goes to space, all these sectors which we can share. Now, let me tell you, there is some kind of competition between us, the member states who are represented here, which is a good competition. Everyone wants to do something,
Yes.
you know, so there is place for everyone, believe me. So there are countries who just bring money, and there are countries who bring, I would say, capacity building.
Capacity, yes.
And this is us. I mean, we prefer to bring, not to bring the fish, but to teach how to fish, which is, I think, more sustainable. So, but that goes also for private sector, to bring private sector here. As I said, in agriculture, but also in ICT and all the rest of the sectors that I mentioned in this basket. The third issue is tourism. And we have direct flights, we will mention it, and the direct flights being a lot of opportunities. But for me, one of the most important is tourism, to bring Israel tourists here. Rwanda is a new destination. Completely new.
It is.
Because the fact is that still Rwanda, for the Israelis, is a place of a genocide. That was, of course, and it's so wrong. That is the image. And the first thing that we should do is to change the image, I would say, to rebrand Rwanda.
Okay.
As a whole, rebranding Rwanda is very important as a whole. I mean, toward the whole world.
Oh, yes.
For me, I look about Israel, and I know the Israeli state of mind, and rebranding Rwanda in Israel is super important.
Have you started the process?
We started. It takes time.
Yes.
I need partners here. It takes time, but still a lot to do. But we started, and people are starting coming here. The flights are almost fully booked. I would say 70% average. Most of the people are still in transit, which is good for Rwanda. It's less good for Rwanda, but we want to bring tourists here to Rwanda. So first is rebranding, and second is to prepare packages which are manageable in the sense of budget, because the gorillas are too expensive for Israelis. No Israeli will go for $1,500 to see the gorillas, because it's not high-end. We're not high-end tourists.
Yes.
But there are other things to see.
Absolutely.
So much to see. It's a beautiful country. I just visited Kibuye, and near the lake. It's a wonderful place. One of the most beautiful landscape I saw in my whole life, really. So the islands, the lake, the sunset, amazing.
It is.
And the green. So, and in addition to that, so many other things to offer. And so prepare packages for 1 week, for 9 days. It's a science. Tourism is a science, and we need to do very intense work on that. So this is the third priority, and two more issues that I want to mention are health and education.
Yes.
Also, we can do a lot together. So
absolutely.
This is my long answer for your short question.
Yes. Now, every year we know that Rwandan students graduate in agricultural studies from Israel, where they undergo training, internship, to strengthen their understanding of smart Africa, like you've just mentioned. Would you say you have the numbers already of the students who've traveled all the way to Israel and have come back to Rwanda?
Yes. So this is an amazing project. We had a few hundreds, I think, in the last few years. This year, I managed to convince my country to increase the number from 150 to 170. So this year, a month ago, we just sent 170 students which are graduated bachelor degree in Rwandan universities in agriculture or veterinarian or fishery, whatever they learn. They go to Israel for 1 year. They stay in villages, in kibbutzim, which is our cooperative village, in the north and in the south. They stay in dorms that the kibbutz, the village, the farmers let them use, 2 or 3 students in a room. I visited them when I was in Israel. I wanted to see if they are happy. Okay. Also, in the living conditions, not only. Yeah. So they are happy. They go for 1 year. So 5 days a week they work physically. They get up 5 o'clock in the morning and they work in agriculture. And then they learn during this work all the secrets of the smart farming, the secrets of the smart agriculture that we can share. They work, they gain money. They earn money.
Well there as well.
Yes, our minimum wage. It's a law. We have minimum wage of more than $1,500. So they gain money. So 1 day a week they go to college of agriculture. Yes. So in both areas, in the north and in the south, there is a college. They study 1 day a week. So they come back after a year with knowledge, with skills, and with capital. And I met a few of them who came back from this year. They came back after a year, and 60 of them formed a cooperative. It's a company. It's a very smart agriculture company, and they are doing wonderful. And they are exporting.
That's great.
Yes, and they work for the community also.
Yes, they do. I also want you to mention maybe the Center of Excellence for Horticultural Development, Mashav, is it? Yes. Maybe take us through briefly.
Yes. First of all, Mashav is our international cooperation agency. Okay. It exists 60 years. It was established in 1958. Already more than 60 years, by Golda Meir. Golda Meir was our first female prime minister, and so far the only one. She established the center mainly to work with African countries. And we have centers in Israel, about 7 of them. One of them was the first to be established in Haifa, in my hometown, near the on the Carmel Mountain. And there are trainings for empowerment of women. Gender issues were brought to Mashav, the first training, the first sector which we trained in 1958. It was many, many years before anyone thought of capacity building in the issue of empowerment of women. Since then, we established other centers which are which train in agriculture, in medicine, in innovation, in telecommunication, all other fields, small and medium-sized businesses, etc. And we train people from 135 countries in the world in these 7 centers in 6 languages. And we had more than 250,000 trainees that came to Israel during the years. And this is a very good program. It's not so rich in the budget, but it's very efficient. And this is our ODA. This is our support to the developing countries. And we do mainly capacity building. As I said before, we don't do much grant, but we do capacity building.
Yes.
And this is Mashav. So Mashav opened here, the biggest ever in the world, our biggest Center for Excellence in Horticulture. We have 4 in the world, or 5. We have some in India, more than 1. But here is the biggest. Mashav invested here $1.5 million. And since the establishment, which was 2 years ago, before I came,
yes,
we had hundreds of people who trained there in courses of different parts of the value chain, from seedlings, grafting, whatever you do with the plants until the marketing and the watering, and whatever you can teach, we teach. I visit often the center. We have guests just this week we had ambassadors who came to visit. We look for cooperation with international organizations here, and we have some already with UNHCR, with other UN organization, UNDP, and that is a good ground for cooperation. So we train also, other than training, the center is open for the community. So people are coming, just come in and learn what we do.
Absolutely. Now, before we take a short break, I want to take us through what we mentioned earlier, Rwanda moving all the way, flying our wings to Israel, Tel Aviv. On your Twitter handle, after flying to Israel when Rwanda launched, the flight there, you said, and I quote, "I visited my hometown of Haifa and met the city secretary discussing ways of cooperation between the city of Kigali and the city of Haifa." Where are we with this today?
So, first of all, of course, was a great pleasure to fly in the inaugural flight. There was a delegation of 10 people from the government, headed by Urgeni Bakuamutsa, who is the PS of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Minafet, a very good friend of mine, and of course of Yvonne Manzi, who is the CEO of Rwanda. And we came especially for an event that we had the same evening in Israel, in Tel Aviv, for the inauguration. It was a very important chapter in the relations, and this came out of the vision of His Excellency the President. The President initiated this opening of the flight because the idea behind it is it will strengthen, of course, the tourism, but it will strengthen the relations because of trade, because of investors who will start coming, because of people who will start, experts who will start coming to conferences. And when someone comes here first time for conference, he will come again.
Yes.
Because you fall in love in Kigali and you fall in love in Rwanda. So no doubt about it. And the scenery is wonderful, and we visited, I visited Haifa, but others also did, and there is a potential of having a twin city in Israel, and I'm still looking for the right city to do it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I will have news, and I will share with you when it's done.
Please, let us break the news then.
Yes.
Let's talk about visa issue, the issuance of visa. Does the embassy here provide the visas to?
Of course. So this was a very important part of my work. I thought it should be a very important part, and it is. It's not that we started when I came, which was 1st of May, but for 25th June, I was ready to issue visas. So my first visa actually went to the CEO of Rwanda, or actually her deputy, who has a Rwandan passport. And the group of 10 people who came were my first visa. So by now, I issued, and for the meantime, I have no consul who sign. The team is mostly relying on local Rwandans, which is wonderful. So I start to learn Kinyarwanda because I have to. By now, I issued almost 300 visas.
Okay.
And the numbers are huge. People are coming if it's for pilgrimage, if it's for experts who go for, if it's people who go for training on all the sectors. So every day I have a few visas to issue.
Yeah.
So it's manageable, and it is managed.
That's great to learn. Now we take a short break, but when we come back, we now dive into some of the events the embassy plans to support in one way or another, and much more to keep it the big Q. Welcome back, and thank you very much for keeping it the big Q. I'm still talking to the Israeli ambassador to Rwanda, Ambassador Ron Adam. As you started your journey in Rwanda May 1st, I believe, 2019, yes. Briefly take us through your experience of the country up to now.
My experience? Well, of course, the first landing, the first day, I thought I land in Geneva.
Oh, really?
Yes, because this was my last post.
Yes.
I love the place. It's clean, it's green, it has a lot of, it has lakes, which And so I thought I land in the middle of Europe, really. I'm not sure it's a compliment,
I don't
but
think
it
so.
is. But it is what I felt.
Okay.
And yes, it's here. It's in Africa, and it's in Rwanda. And of course, I told you that everyone who lands here the first time, after half a day, it's enough for him to understand that this is completely something else. And then when we drill in and dig in, and we learn how the people behave, how the people are nice to each other. This is very important, and we have to learn from that. Many peoples have to learn how people are nice to each other here. And of course, this is the second thing I think that I felt. And then, of course, when you drill more, you find a lot of good qualities, the organization, the cleanness, and then you feel so much to do. So from the minute I came, I met a lot of people, and I learned so much about the country and the needs. And it has been 6 months, in November 1st, and I have a list of tens of projects that I want to do. Some of them are going to be materialized soon, but by the time I leave, which is in 3 years or 4 years, I hope to achieve at least a third of them, to cut ribbons. It will be fine. I will be happy.
Take us through the Cyber Tech Africa Conference.
So this is one of the projects which I achieved already. So the idea is there is a company in Israel which is called Cyber Tech Israel, which produces the second biggest conference on cyber in the world. The first one is in the US. In Minneapolis is the first, biggest one. So this is the second one. This conference started in Tel Aviv about 7 or 8 years ago, only in Tel Aviv once a year. But they saw they are doing so good job, so they went around the world, in Latin America, in Europe, in the US, and in Tokyo. And I persuaded the director, the CEO of the company, to come to Africa. And not only to come to Africa, it will be the first time in Africa, and it will be here in Kigali. Because this is the place to do conferences. Absolutely.
What can we expect from that conference?
So there will be, I believe, between 2,000 to 3,000 participants. I believe that the president will open, and I hope to see heads of states, mainly from Africa. It is an African conference. It's not a Rwandan one, not only. So from Rwanda, of course, we will see regulators that deal with cyber in all the sectors. Yeah, it takes me to medicine. It takes me to education, of course, to banks, to all the ministries, to the government,
Yes.
to the police, to the army. Everywhere you need a good cyber defense. One of the issues, for example, is that finally you are in the process of registering all the population since day of birth,
Yes.
which is very important. It was not there,
before,
so
yes.
much, and until the day you die. And this will produce a data which you will have to protect. This is just an example.
Yes.
So we need to, of course, energy, of course, all the electricity and energy. And so you can go on and look for all sectors that you will start needing the protection. And as you make the progress and as Rwanda develops itself, this is a very important need, because unfortunately you do have your neighbors which are from time to time show their presence, and you have to protect yourself also in this area of cyber. So, but moreover, we are talking about the whole Africa. And this want to be a hub of cyber also, in addition to innovation, for the whole continent. So I expect to see people coming from other countries, and regulators in all sectors that I mentioned, from bank to others, from all Africa.
That's very
Yeah,
important.
and we will have Israeli companies, we have Israeli experts come and share their experience and knowledge.
So before I let you
It
go,
will be on the 24th and 25th of March.
of March next year,
in
2020.
KCC, yes.
Yes. So before I let you go, I know there's a topic, the Holocaust, which is very close to heart. I want you to take us through the Memorial Day of the Holocaust. You know, what is it all about? How did it take place?
Yes.
And, you know,
of course, it's very close to my heart, for many reasons. The first reason is that I am a son or second generation of both my parents are Holocaust survivors. My mother was in a concentration camp in Germany, in Bergen-Belsen, as she was 9 years old. She was taken from her family, from her house, and she was taken by train to the concentration camp, and she survived. And my father had even more difficult time during the Holocaust. So being a second generation, for me, it was very important, this issue along the years. And I'm sure I also have an impact in my personality. I didn't search to and dig in too much, but probably I have. For example, I don't throw anything. I just collect things, and I don't throw food. It has to do with that. But what I did as a diplomat, I decided, when I was the director of the UN department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I decided that I need to bring the Holocaust into the UN. So it was the first time that someone brought the Holocaust into the UN was me, and I drafted a resolution in 2005 that decided on a Holocaust Remembrance Day. So the Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is 27th of January, is my invention. And it is being commemorated all over the world. So it's a big achievement, diplomatic achievement, and I'm very proud of it. And we will mention it this year in January 27, because this is the day of the liberation of Auschwitz. And when I passed the resolution in the UN, we started with a few countries who supported, but then it grew and grew, and then at the end it was adopted by consensus. Even Iran did not object to the resolution. The whole world is supported, and the whole world, only a few countries who don't do it, commemorate. And it is good to commemorate. It's good to bring to remember, and also against the denial.
Absolutely.
So, which brings us also to the Rwandan case, denial of the genocide, denial of the Holocaust, which we fight, and we collaborate, and we have mutual programs about this, about the denial of the Holocaust, and about the way to remember. So we will have this event as every year. It will be in the Holocaust. It will be in the Genocide Memorial. In collaboration with the Aegis Fund, of course, and the Genocide Memorial, and with hopefully, we will invite the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister, and we hope to have a guest there, and we will bring a survivor to give the testimony, and some other people who will talk about the Holocaust. And this is very important to bring the Holocaust to the agenda here. It was not done, I understood, it was not done before. Actually, I thought about it, and I spoke to many people, and if it was in the curricula of Rwanda before '94, but it was not. But if it was, maybe something would have been thought about before. But probably it was on purpose, I don't know, that it was not. So we have to learn from the history, and we have to learn from the genocide, and we have to learn from the Holocaust, and that's why we have to remember it here.
Absolutely, it's quite important, of course, to remember, to learn, to unite, you know, and write our own stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're good in uniting.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I know you're a former journalist. Would you say you're planning to write a book?
Yes.
One way or another?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, I didn't tell it to anyone yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We look forward to reading it, I guess.
Yes, it will be a fiction, I think. And it will it will do with a meeting between a genocide child and the Holocaust child who have gone through, and the meeting is of course fictional, but there will be a meeting.
Thank you, Ambassador, for making time to be with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. I've been talking to the Israeli ambassador to Rwanda, Ron Adam, and we've discussed lots concerning bilateral ties of both nations and what we can look forward and what we can learn together as we grow not only Africa, but also Israel. So my name is Fiona Mbabazi. Do keep it the big Q, and thank you for being with us.